I was swapped at birth when I was 3. The good news is this family was incredibly wealthy. I knew from a young age that I was the fake heir, and I also knew that one day this couple would discover my true identity. So, using the temporary superpower of their money, I arranged a little surprise for them long ago. The moment they tried to kick me out for their real son, I can take everything they have without a second thought. On my 20th birthday, I discovered that the Waltons were secretly searching for their biological son. Without a moment's hesitation, I slept with my fiancée that very night, before she found out who I really was. The next day, when my identity was exposed, the family tossed a check at me. "Ethan, here's $50 million. Step aside and don't make things awkward for Leo." Hearing this, I didn't hesitate for a second, signed my name, grabbed the check, and walked out. Hilarious. Whoever stays has to deal with my fiancé's male assistant, the scholarship kid, and her first love. I'll let the real heir have that honor. I am the tragic side character in a romance novel. According to the plot, after the banquet, my fiancé will fall for a poor student working as a waiter, and my identity as the fake heir will be suddenly exposed, leaving me in a desperate situation. From then on, I'm supposed to begin my miserable life as a tool, paving the way for the female lead and getting crushed by the male lead. You've got to be kidding me. Knowing I'm just a side character, why would I even play along? The smart move is to eat my fill and get the hell out. "Ethan, what's wrong?" My fiancée, Sophia Vanderbilt, noticed me spacing out and sat down beside me. Her custom evening gown perfectly accentuated her exquisite curves. Her meticulously cared for skin glowed like jade under the lights. She'd had a little to drink at the banquet, and a faint blush colored her cherubic cheeks, making her breathtakingly beautiful. I was momentarily captivated, then quickly cleared my throat. "It's nothing, maybe just a little tired. Sophia, why don't you go take a shower first?" Sophia shot me a look and asked, "What? Are you already bothered by the smell of wine on me?" I immediately put on a sincere expression and replied, "Of course not, it's just getting late, and I was thinking we should get some rest." Sophia didn't suspect a thing, gave me a radiant smile, and got up to walk toward the bathroom. As I watched her graceful figure disappear behind the door, I quickly stood up, deftly picked up her phone from where she'd left it on the coffee table, and walked out to the open-air balcony. According to the plot, Liam, the scholarship kid she had just met at the banquet tonight, would be calling her very soon, and Sophia, upon hearing that he had sprained his ankle, would rush out to take care of him. Since I'm about to leave anyway, there's no way I'm leaving while being cheated on. The night wind brushed against my face. Just as I steadied myself on the balcony, the phone screen lit up, and a call from Liam popped up, just as I expected. I took a deep breath, swiped to answer, and put the phone to my ear. A deliberately low and weak male voice came from the other end. "Sophia, I accidentally sprained my ankle on my way back tonight. It hurt so much, and I'm all alone in my dorm. Can you come take care of me for the night?" Hearing this, I sneered. "Who the hell do you think you are, calling her Sophia?" The person on the other end was clearly not expecting a man to answer and was stunned into silence. After a few seconds, he finally reacted, his tone instantly hardening. "Who is this? Let me talk to Sophia." I replied coldly, "I'm Sophia Vanderbilt's fiancé, Ethan Walton." A grown man sprains his ankle, and instead of going to a doctor, you call my fiancé for help in the middle of the night? "I think you didn't sprain your ankle, you sprained your brain." Hearing who I was, Liam's voice lost its pitiful act and took on a strange sense of superiority. "Oh, so you're the fiancé Sophia was talking about? She told me herself that she finds you stuffy and boring." He paused, his tone growing even more arrogant. "Whatever, I have nothing to say to a guy like you. Put Sophia on the phone. I want to see if she chooses to come take care of me, or if she chooses you." I scoffed in response. "Oh, that confident, are we? Fine, but it's getting late tonight, and Sophia and I have our own evening plans. We can have this contest another day." As soon as I said that, he became frantic on the other end. "Evening plans? What are you talking about? What evening plans?" I chuckled leisurely. "What kind of evening plans do you think a couple, a pair of fiancés, have late at night? Sophia is my fiancé, so naturally we're doing things to deepen our relationship." "What? Has no one ever taught you that, kid? You bastard. If you dare lay a finger on Sophia." Before he could finish his furious tirade, I blocked his number, deleted the contact, and turned off the phone, then leisurely walked back into the room and placed the phone back where it was. The sound of the shower trickled from the steamy bathroom. Because of the running water, Sophia hadn't heard any of our conversation. I went to the other bathroom and took a quick shower myself. When I returned to the bedroom, Sophia, wrapped in a robe, was just coming out of the bathroom. She wore a silk robe with the belt tied loosely, her damp hair cascading over her shoulders, exuding the fresh scent of her shower. The steam had flushed her cheeks pink, giving her an extra touch of charm. I moved forward and naturally wrapped my arms around her slender waist, whispering, "Sophia, I believe we're getting married next month, right? Our parents have been wanting a grandchild for a while now." At my words, Sophia's face instantly turned beet red. Normally, she would have shyly pushed me away, but the alcohol tonight had clearly weakened her defenses. She only squirmed symbolically in my arms and murmured, "I thought we were waiting until the wedding day." I grew impatient. "I can't help it. You're too beautiful tonight. If I hold back any longer, what kind of man would I be?" After years of being engaged, Sophia naturally had strong feelings for me. Besides, the plot had only just begun, so that kid Liam hadn't yet become important enough in her mind to challenge my position. Most importantly, she never got that phone call. It was late in the morning when I was finally woken from a deep sleep by the frantic ringing of the doorbell. I threw on a robe and ambled downstairs. As soon as I opened the door, I saw my parents standing there with a young man. The young man wore faded, old clothes. He was thin and kept his head down, looking timid. It was the long-lost true heir, Leo Walton. I feigned ignorance, stepping aside to let them in. "Dad, Mom, what brings you here so early?" Mr. and Mrs. Walton exchanged a heavy look before leading the frail young man into the living room. Once everyone was seated, Mrs. Walton spoke solemnly. "We came today because we have something very important to announce." She pushed Leo, who was hiding behind her, forward. Her voice choked with emotion as she explained, "This boy is our biological son, Leo. We just confirmed it. The poor child has suffered so much out there all these years." Mr. Walton's gaze fell sharply on me as he continued in a tone that left no room for argument. "Ethan, the truth is out now. Although you've been with us for many years and have managed the company exceptionally well, the position of heir to the Walton family rightfully belongs to Leo." Hearing this, I felt nothing at all. In my view, there was nothing to blame Mr. Walton for. Blood is thicker than water. In the original story, to prevent turmoil in the company, I chose to gradually relinquish my power so Leo could take over Walton Enterprises smoothly. However, Leo saw this as me being greedy for the company and unwilling to let go. So, once he gained power, he started working against me. I had to keep the company running while fending off Leo's constant backstabbing. Even worse, my fiancée, Sophia, started getting entangled with the scholarship kid she sponsored, her attentive male assistant, and her first love who had returned from abroad. At first, Leo was worried that Sophia's family, the Vanderbilts, would back me up, but once he realized we were on the rocks, he dropped all pretenses. Faced with enemies both inside and out, I was powerless and made a quiet exit. But now, "You can have this mess of a company. I'm not touching it." Without another word, I shook the true heir Leo's hand and said sincerely, "I'm so sorry for taking your place all these years. I'll leave right now." Seeing how decisive I was, Mr. and Mrs. Walton, and even Leo, were stunned. But Mr. and Mrs. Walton quickly recovered, a relieved smile spreading across their faces. "Ethan, I knew you were a sensible boy." He paused, then continued, "Our only concern now is the marriage alliance with the Vanderbilts. After all, you and Sophia have always been so close." Before he could finish, an angry and anxious female voice called down from the stairs, "Ethan!" Sophia came rushing down the stairs. She was in her robe with one of my shirts thrown carelessly over it, her hair a mess, but none of it could hide her fury. She held up her phone, stormed over to me, her eyes wide with anger. "Why did you hang up on him? And block him? Do you have any idea how rude that is?" This barrage of questions made Mr. Walton choke on his last word. I, however, just leaned back on the sofa, waved a hand dismissively, and smiled. "Hold on, we can talk about trivial things like that later." Hearing that, Sophia exploded. "Trivial? You call this?" But before she could finish, Mrs. Walton stepped forward and cut her off. "Sophia, please calm down. We came today because Ethan is not our biological son. We were a bit worried about your marriage to Ethan, but now it seems your relationship isn't that strong after all. In that case, let's just call off the engagement. If the Vanderbilts and the Waltons still wish to form an alliance, you can consider Leo." As she said this, Mrs. Walton's tone lightened considerably. Clearly, Sophia's outburst had erased their final concern. This sudden news left the furious Sophia completely dumbfounded. Seeing no objection from Sophia, Mrs. Walton quickly pulled a prepared check from her purse and tossed it in front of me. "Ethan, here's $50 million. Take it as a final gesture of our time together. Leave the Walton family, make your own way, and don't make things difficult for Leo." I looked at the flimsy check, then glanced at Sophia, who looked like she wanted to say something but just stood there, biting her lip and staring at me with a complicated expression. I then decisively took the check, picked up a pen, and signed my name on the designated line of the disownment agreement. I slipped the check into my robe pocket and said sincerely, "All right, I understand. Thank you for raising me all these years." With that, I didn't look at anyone else, turned, and walked straight out the door, not even bothering to pack my clothes. Behind me, I could faintly hear my adoptive parents comforting the real heir, Leo. Sophia finally snapped out of it and yelled after me, "Wait, Ethan, stop. You explain yourself. What was that phone call with Liam all about?" I didn't break my stride, a smirk playing on my lips. Explain? There was nothing left to say. Whoever wants to wade into this mess is welcome to it. I'm out. Azure seas, blue skies, golden sand. 3 days later, I was lounging on a beach in Miami, enjoying a perfectly pressured massage from a professional therapist. The warm sea breeze caressed my skin, carrying the salty air and the rustling of distant palm trees. An iced coconut sat within reach, a small paper umbrella next to the straw. Now this was living. With $50 million in hand, my new motto was Carpe Diem. Just as I was drifting off, about to melt into the afternoon sun, a shadow fell over me. The therapist's hands paused. Annoyed, I furrowed my brow and lazily opened my eyes. Standing before me, silhouetted against the sun, was a pretty, pouting figure. She was dressed in a well-tailored and expensive black dress, completely out of place with the vacation vibe around her. I was taken aback. Wasn't this my sister who was studying abroad? Chloe? That's right, I wasn't an only child in the Walton family. I had a sister 2 years younger than me. She wasn't a fake heiress, but the real deal. It's just that Chloe had gone to study abroad 2 years ago. In the story's plot, she didn't have a significant role, so I never expected her to show up. The naive little girl from 2 years ago had really blossomed. Her skin was flawless, her figure slender and graceful. She had grown into a true beauty. When Chloe saw that I recognized her, she immediately crouched down and started bawling while grabbing my head. "Brother, how can you be on vacation? Our family is falling apart. That useless Leo is running the company into the ground." To impress Sophia, he blindly launched several projects with no market potential, just burning through money. And that's not all. As the company president, he completely disregarded his image and got into a public fight with one of Sophia's male assistants on Twitter, making headlines. The company's stock has plummeted. I came back from abroad to find the sky falling. "Brother, you have to come back and save us. I'll be your woman on the inside." She was shaking me so hard I got dizzy. I struggled to my feet and pushed my overly emotional adoptive sister away. "Chloe, calm down and listen to me. I'm not a Walton anymore. Whether the family thrives or fails has nothing to do with me." Hearing this, Chloe stared at me in disbelief. "Brother, what's wrong with you? How can you say that? You're the one who told me that Walton Enterprises was your masterpiece, that you poured your heart and soul into it. You said you were going to take it to new heights. Now it's on the verge of ruin, and you can just stand by and do nothing?" I gave a non-committal grunt, then settled back into a comfortable beach chair, picked up my iced coconut, and took a slow sip. That's right. After leaving the company, I had an epiphany. Life isn't just about work. Soaking up the sun, drinking coconut water, and enjoying life is pretty great too. "No, brother. Don't give up like this." Chloe was so anxious she squatted beside my chair, her face scrunched up in distress, pulling on my arm as if trying to drag me out of some decadent hell. "Brother, I know you're upset and resentful that Mom and Dad were so heartless, kicking you out of the company just like that. But I, Chloe Walton, am unconditionally on your side. Even if we're not related by blood, you're my only brother. If I hadn't been abroad that day, I would have given Mom, Dad, and that Leo a piece of my mind. Oh, and that shameless woman, Sophia. I'll find a chance to slap her right across the face for you." Watching Chloe shadowboxing with her little fists, I lazily waved a hand and smiled. "Chloe, I appreciate the thought, but it's not that I don't want to help you. I signed that agreement. It's in black and white that I've completely cut ties with the Walton family. As an outsider, on what grounds and in what capacity could I possibly interfere with the internal management of Walton Enterprises? I have no legitimate claim." "Oh, well," Chloe deflated like a popped balloon, at a loss for words. Her shoulders slumped, the light in her bright eyes dimmed, and she muttered, "So is there really no way?" However, just a few seconds later, she popped up in front of me again, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Brother, actually, there might be a way." She began to coax me. "Look, since legally and biologically you're not my brother anymore, if I marry you, you can intervene in the company's affairs as the Waltons' son-in-law, right?" Cough, cough. I choked on my coconut water, struggling to catch my breath. I stared at her in disbelief and scolded, "Chloe, are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea what you're saying?" A faint, unnatural blush crossed Chloe's face, but she retorted defiantly, "What? Am I wrong? The shareholders and executives all saw your skills and capabilities at the company back then. No one argues with money. If you're willing to come back, they'll welcome you with open arms. Besides, brother, look at yourself now. You can't even freely buy a multi-million-dollar mansion. I don't believe you actually enjoy living this kind of hard life. I took a deep breath, my tone more serious than ever. Chloe, you know that's not what I'm talking about. Seeing she couldn't bluff her way through, Chloe dropped the act. Her eyes were filled with stubbornness. Brother, I'm not kidding. Growing up, Mom and Dad never paid much attention to me. You were the one who took care of everything. You're my favorite person in the whole world. Since we're not related by blood, why can't I marry you? Seeing her determination, I softened my tone and raised a hand to stop her from arguing further. Chloe, I understand how you feel. I'm not coming back, but I will help you in another way. Chloe paused, confused. Brother, what do you mean? I said gently, if you want to control the company, you don't have to rely on someone else. Why can't you be the one to turn things around? Don't forget you're an heir too. Me? Chloe repeated instinctively, her delicate eyebrows knitting together. But I just got back to the country. I don't understand the domestic market or the complex relationships within the company. I cut off her hesitation. You can learn what you don't know and figure out what you don't understand. I can teach you all of it. Besides, didn't you say Leo was a useless fool? Do I really need to step in personally just to replace a fool? Chloe pouted with disappointment, but she quickly rallied her spirits. Okay then, brother, I'm going to come find you every day, so you can't go running off. I smiled helplessly. Don't worry, I'll be here for you. In the days that followed, I said a temporary goodbye to the sun and sand and dedicated myself to teaching Chloe everything. The personalities and abilities of key department heads, how to judge market trends, how to exploit conflicts within the board to win allies, how to precisely dismantle Leo's flashy but impractical projects, and how to build her own loyal team. Chloe was naturally gifted, and with the determination of someone with her back against the wall, she progressed by leaps and bounds. Step by step, she laid her groundwork within the corporation, gathering concrete evidence of how Leo was harming the company's interests, while also using the media to expose his incompetence and scandals to the public. Finally, under the pressure of repeated board meetings and public opinion, Leo was abandoned by everyone. The projects he launched to please Sophia became the final straw that broke him. Even Mr. Walton couldn't save him. He was kicked out of the core power structure of Walton Enterprises, left with only a meaningless title, completely out of the game. Chloe firmly took control of Walton Enterprises. Meanwhile, at the Vanderbilt estate, Sophia was lying in bed, irritably scrolling through her phone. The screen showed pictures of Leo being swarmed by the media, with captions full of mockery and ridicule. Ever since Leo lost power, he had become a different person. He was no longer the composed heir who tried to maintain his dignity in front of her, but had become sensitive and quick to anger, constantly coming to her to complain and ask for help, which annoyed her to no end. As for Liam, the scholarship kid she once pitied, he had pitched several business plans to her, seeking investment, only to lose everything each time. After she refused to invest further, he showed his true colors, trying to run off with her money, which angered her so much she called the police and had him sent to jail. And then there was her incredibly attentive male assistant, who had the nerve to privately hit on Chloe after a meeting between the Vanderbilt and Walton companies today. If Chloe hadn't come to her to mock her about it, she would have never even known. Now he was fired and blacklisted. It was as if the tide had gone out, leaving nothing but messy foam around her. Sophia walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window, gazing out at the bustling but cold New York City skyline. An unprecedented feeling of emptiness and frustration washed over her. She couldn't help but think back to the days when she and I were still engaged. Back then, I might have seemed a bit boring and overly focused on work, but I was always steady and reliable, keeping everything in perfect order. I remembered all her preferences, would show up the moment she was in trouble, and the way I looked at her was always with gentle acceptance and focus. But back then, she was so well protected under my wing that she took it all for granted. But now, she rubbed her temples in frustration. A feeling she didn't dare examine too closely, a feeling called regret, was quietly wrapping itself around her heart. She suddenly felt that the home that once belonged to her and Ethan was so warm and nostalgic. The next morning, while Sophia was working, there was a soft knock on her office door. Her executive secretary walked in with a mysterious smile on her face. Sophia, I have some good news, want to hear it? As her longtime secretary, the two were less like boss and subordinate and more like best friends. Looking at her secretive friend, Sophia couldn't help but smile. All right, just tell me, don't keep me in suspense. The secretary lowered her voice, her tone filled with excitement. I just got a notification from the airline. That first love you've been thinking about is coming back. His flight lands at JFK at 3 this afternoon. Hearing this, Sophia's eyes lit up. Ryan, the upperclassman she had a crush on as a teenager, the one she considered her pure and untainted first love. Perhaps seeing the charming Ryan would help her recapture that pure, wonderful feeling from the past and escape her current mess. She immediately stood up, fixed her slightly messy hair and tired makeup in the mirror, and restored the radiant look of a Vanderbilt heiress. Get the car. We're going to the airport. On the way, Sophia mentally planned where to take Ryan for dinner and what they would talk about. However, when she arrived at the international arrivals gate, her heart filled with anticipation and a little nervousness, and scanned the crowd for that familiar handsome figure from her memory, she saw someone else instead. Ethan. There I was, dressed in a smart linen shirt and trousers, standing tall with a relaxed expression, pulling a suitcase as I walked unhurriedly out of the arrivals hall. Sophia froze on the spot, the anticipation on her face instantly hardening into shock. She whipped her head around to her secretary, her voice tight with suppressed anger. What is going on? You said Ryan was coming back today. The secretary was startled by Sophia's sharp glare. She blinked, looking completely bewildered. Huh? Ryan? Who's Ryan? She paused, her eyes falling on the limited edition diamond watch I had given Sophia, then glancing at the pearl earrings I had commissioned from a top jeweler, which Sophia was wearing today. I just noticed you've been wearing that watch Ethan gave you all the time lately, and yesterday in your office you put out that jade sculpture he gave you. I thought he was the one you really wanted to see, so when I heard Ethan was back from his trip, I let you know. Looking at her slightly embarrassed secretary, Sophia subconsciously touched the watch on her wrist. As the saying goes, you can't see the forest for the trees. At that moment, her secretary's words made her realize something. It seemed she had been constantly trying to find someone to replace Ethan. Didn't that mean Ethan was the one she truly couldn't let go of? This realization made Sophia feel incredibly ashamed, her cheeks burning. But as she watched that figure in the distance about to walk away, a powerful impulse surged through her. Now that she knew she was wrong, should she just let the mistake continue? She had to do something. Taking a deep breath, Sophia pushed past her secretary and hurried after me in her high heels. Ethan, her voice trembled slightly with nervousness. I stopped and looked at my former fiancé with some surprise. Sophia, what are you doing here? Sophia looked up at me, trying her best to stay calm. I know I was wrong before. I was too selfish, blinded by superficial things, and I said a lot of hurtful things and did some foolish things. She wrung her hands, mustering all her courage to say the words that had been on her mind for so long. Ethan, can we go back to how things were? I promise, I'll never be like that again. Can we start over? Ethan, I can't live without you. It took almost all her strength to say those words. However, before I could respond, a clear, mocking female voice sounded from beside me. Well, look who it is. If it isn't the great Miss Vanderbilt. Sophia's body stiffened. She turned to see Chloe, who had appeared at the airport at some point. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, clearly here to pick me up. Chloe stood with her arms crossed, all traces of her former immaturity gone. She walked over with an elegant yet intimidating stride, looking Sophia up and down with a critical eye. A sarcastic smile played on Chloe's red lips. What's this? Has Miss Vanderbilt gotten tired of her little toys and now wants my brother to clean up her mess? My brother treated you so well, gave you his heart and soul, put you on a pedestal. And what did you do? You threw a fit over a waiter. Now that you see those other men are unreliable, you suddenly remember how good my brother was? Sophia, the world doesn't work that way. If my brother wants the moon right now, I can get it for him. Why should he go back and pick up a discarded piece of trash like you? Those words were like daggers, striking Sophia's heart with cruel precision, turning her face deathly pale and making her stumble. She looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. Ethan, I was just deceived by them. I've realized now that you're the only one in my heart. You still have feelings for me too, right? Hearing this, I just waved my hand. Sophia, we've already broken up. You don't need to say these things to me. Chloe, let's go. At that, Chloe naturally looped her arm through mine, her tone instantly becoming light and affectionate. Brother, the car is waiting outside. I had the kitchen make all your favorite dishes. Let's go home. I gave a slight nod and let Chloe lead me away, walking right past the stunned Sophia without giving her a second glance. Back at the familiar Walton mansion, the living room was brightly lit, and the air was filled with the delicious aroma of food. Chloe deftly served me food while chattering on about how heartless Sophia was. I listened, chiming in occasionally, but as we ate, my vision started to blur. Before my consciousness faded completely, I managed to lift my heavy eyelids one last time, the final image being Chloe's pretty face leaning in with a mischievous grin. When I regained consciousness, my whole body ached. I opened my eyes and realized I'd been thoroughly had. Furious, I roared, "Chloe, how dare you?" My shouting woke Chloe up, and she groggily rubbed her eyes. Seeing my dark expression, her eyes darted around, and she immediately started rolling around on the bed, whining, "Brother, I'm sorry. Please forgive me just this once." Brother. I had never been able to resist Chloe's pleading, ever since we were kids. Plus, after my tutelage, the girl had learned some ruthless tactics and knew exactly how to get her way. Since what was done, I had no choice but to go along with it. 2 weeks later, Chloe and I held our wedding as planned. The event came as no surprise to most of the shareholders and business partners. After all, anyone with eyes could see that my abilities as the fake heir far surpassed those of the useless true heir, Leo. Who in the world would argue with profit? Tying down a lucrative outsider with their daughter was, in their eyes, a very shrewd business deal. Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Walton didn't see it that way. When they heard I was marrying Chloe, they both had to be rushed to the hospital that night. I sent Leo along with them to be their caregiver, just to keep them from causing a scene at the wedding. Out of sight, out of mind. At the wedding, congratulations echoed all around. Amidst the enthusiastic cheers and applause, Chloe and I exchanged rings and vows. In a corner of the celebratory crowd, Sophia stood in an elegant dress, looking utterly lost. After dropping off her wedding gift, she quickly made a dejected exit. Time flew by and 7 years passed in the blink of an eye. Under the joint leadership of Chloe and me, Walton Enterprises had expanded its territory, becoming an unshakable leader in the industry. With a stable business and a harmonious family, we finally took a step back from our busy work lives and decided to have a child. After Chloe became pregnant, I took over all company matters so she could rest and focus on her pregnancy. One morning, as I sat behind my large desk, my secretary brought in the day's schedule as usual. I glanced over it, and my eyes paused on one particular item. There was a partnership meeting with the Vanderbilt Group later, and the name of their lead representative was listed right there in black and white, Sophia Vanderbilt. When the meeting time arrived, the conference room door opened, and Sophia walked in, surrounded by her team. 7 years had passed. She had lost some of her youthful petulance, replaced by a more composed and capable demeanor, but a deep, lingering sadness still hid in her eyes. When she saw me sitting at the head of the table, a flicker of unconcealable surprise crossed her face. But she quickly suppressed the inappropriate emotion and shifted into work mode, professionally presenting the Vanderbilt's proposal, only stealing occasional glances at me. The meeting finally concluded in that subtle, awkward atmosphere. I stood up and politely escorted Sophia and her team out. Just as we reached the company entrance, I saw a familiar figure. Chloe was waiting there with a smile, holding a thermal container. Seeing Chloe's slightly rounded belly, Sophia's face paled, and she walked away, looking completely devastated. I quickly walked over, took the container from Chloe's hands, and said in a scolding tone, "Why aren't you resting at home? What are you doing at the office?" Chloe just linked her arm through mine, unconcerned. "I'm only 2 months along, it's fine. Besides, I wanted to bring you some soup." As she spoke, she glanced in the direction Sophia had gone. "Was that Sophia?" I nodded and said frankly, "Yes, just business. Don't worry. There's been nothing between us for a long time." Chloe replied matter-of-factly, "Don't worry, I'm not jealous. When we were kids, I used to follow Sophia around calling her sister-in-law. In my mind, we were already family. I only got angry later when she did all those foolish things. But seeing her looking so lost now, honestly, I'm not that angry anymore. If you have time, you should talk to her, help her out." I looked at Chloe, a mix of emotions welling up inside me, and finally said with a helpless sigh, "All right, I'll talk to her if I get the chance. But whether she can move on is up to her. In any case, our life is already on the road to happiness."